Hello there, my name is Ed, and today we're going to talk about the Easy Cartomizer tank, or Easy Tank for short. We're going to talk about what they are, how to assemble it, tips and tricks, how to fill it up, and so on and so forth. Now the Easy Tanks come in different sizes and colors. Two different sizes, the 3mm, which you can use with standard cartomizers or the long dual coil cartomizers, or the 5mm tank, which is meant to be used with the dual coil cartomizer. They come in black and white round, black and white hex, and black and white square. I don't have a black square with me at the moment, but it looks just like this but in black. Also, on October 21st, 2011, we will have the stainless steel in all three sizes: the round, the hex, and the square. So those will be coming out in a few weeks from now, and that is going to do it. So let's move on and see how to assemble your Easy Tank. Alright, when you get your Easy Tank, it is going to come pre-assembled. All pre-assembled and ready to go. But let's say you've got it and you've washed it out. What you want to do is take some, I have some propylene glycol PG, no nick, just straight PG liquid. And this is really good for getting this together easily. So I put a little drop right on the inside there. I take one of the caps and I just turn it before I push it in, and it'll slide right in. There's an O-ring here that seals the cap to the tube, and then there's an O-ring on the inside that seals the cartomizer to the cap. So we're going to do the same thing on the other side. And there we have it. It's an assembled tank. Take them back off. Usually a good wiggle, they'll come right off with a good wiggle. But occasionally, if they're on for a while, the O-rings may get a little dry, and they're tough to get off. So in that case, I usually grab like a pencil, something that's a little bit smaller diameter, so it'll go in there. And with it being round, it's a little tough. It's not as easy as the square ones. The square ones, when they're tight, they got this nice, you can just turn it and then they'll just pop right off. But if you find one that gets stuck, kind of hold it something like that, and I push up until one side comes up a little bit, and I push up on the other side, and I push up on the other side until it pops off. Pretty simple if they get stuck, and occasionally they do. Just about all of them, they just get stuck, they get dry. Hot and cold expands and contracts the plastic, so it could happen. So now we have an assembled tank. Well, now we need a cartomizer to put in it. So there's your cartomizer. There's no holes in it. It's just your standard cartomizer. Highly recommend using stainless steel cartomizers bought that way. You can buy them with the sticker already on them and peel them off. It is a real pain in the butt to get that sticker and get the glue off, and you really don't want to be vaping that. So that's our standard 3mm. Here's a 3mm that I've played with a little bit, and let's get in a little closer here. So I've punched this one. I've also cut this one with a Dremel. I don't cut mine anymore. I punch them. I like the punched holes better. And here's a dual cartomizer to kind of show you a punched hole a little better. I liked the punch holes better myself, mainly just because when you cut into it, if you're not careful, you may get it a little too hot. You might melt the wicking material on the inside. You're going to create some little fine metal particles with that. Now, the filler is pretty much going to stop that from actually getting into where you're actually vaping at, but yet, you know, it's just one of those things that I really don't want in my carto. So, I punch them. I like the punch better. All the vendors that carry these tanks carry punched cartos. So, I'll just demonstrate with this one. Well, give me this. This one doesn't have the punch in it, but we're just going to show you with this one since it's the same size. Another reason why I don't like the cut ones is occasionally the O-ring will get caught in the slot there if you cut the slot too big. So for the most part, you're going to take it, you're going to push it in until it's flush, and you're done. Now, if you have a mod that has a recessed well, the inner O-ring is right about here, all the way down here. So you can actually slide this down a little bit and punch your hole up higher. This way everything will still wick well. There's enough room for it to get down into your mod that has a juice well. And the only thing you'll need is a drip tip that is the same diameter as the Cartomizer. So when you push it down in there, it actually goes inside the cap. And it works great. Or you just use a dual coil Cartomizer, which is how I have this set up. As you can see, the hole is flush with the bottom there, more or less. And we have some sticking out to get into a mod with a juice well. Mods that are standard, you can just put them flush, and there you go. The tank will not affect air draw whatsoever. All it does is it allows juice to come in through these two little side holes and keep your Cartomizer nice and wet, which is the best flavor, is when the Cartomizers are really nice and wet. So let's take a look at filling. Now there's a few different ways you can fill your easy tank. I'll show you the 3 ways that I've used in the past and the one that I personally like now. So we have our tank, it's all assembled and good to go. Most of the tanks, they will be snug. Sometimes if it's a little bit difficult to move, you can just screw this on your mod and then slide it up like that. Be sure to more grab the bottom one because you don't want to pull up on this one and pull it off. If it's empty, it's not a big deal, but just slide it up. So, first method. The first method I ever used, I pushed it down. Let me get a little closer for you. I pushed it down until there's a gap there. And you take your e-liquid, and right on the side, get a little drop off of there. I put the tip right on the side, let the juice run down the side of the cap, and then I looked through here to make sure it was running into the tank and not into the Cartomizer and flooding it out. As it got up a little higher, I might push it up a little bit, and there you go. This method, I never got it completely full. There was always that little air bubble in there I just couldn't get out. So the second method is quite similar to the first method, but in this case, you're pulling it. I should probably turn, well, let's get closer. You're pulling it down. Same method, leave a little gap, start filling it up from the edge, and away we go. The way I like to do it is I never take it off the mod. I leave it on there all the time. And I will push the tank up till it stops. I hold on to the tank. Let me swap over here. So I push it back up till it stops. I hold on to the tank and I take the cap off. Now I got a nice big opening. I'll take my e-liquid and I'll fill it all the way up to the very top of the Cartomizer. Then, holding onto the, don't tilt it sideways with it's full. Holding onto here, I put the cap back on and then slide it down. Really super simple for me, especially with the square tanks, because they're so easy to spin and get it off really easily. Now, pro tip, don't do this. Don't pull it off with it down. You're not going to find a problem here. You're going to find a problem when you put it back on. Let me get up close for you. So now this is full of juice, and imagine it sitting up like this. You put the cap on. As soon as that O-ring touches, this inner chamber is sealed. You got liquid in there, you got an air bubble in there. When you push it on, it's going to force a lot of e-liquid in through the holes. And it's going to flood it, you're going to get juice everywhere, and that's what causes that. So be very careful when doing that, so you don't flood your Cartomizer. But those are the 3 ways that I do it. Like I said, I prefer doing it just by pulling the top cap off. Alright, let's go over some tips. You got a brand new Cartomizer, or you just a brand new tank, and you just cleaned it. And you find that getting this in is really difficult to get in. Well, you could do a couple things. You could take your e-liquid, or I prefer just PG so you don't get it on your hands. If you get e-liquid on your hands, just wash it off and you'll be safe enough. And I put a little drop in there, put it in, turn it around to get that liquid all the way around it, and push it on in. You can do the same thing for the other side if you're having difficulties putting it together. Another tip will be to use a drip tip. A drip tip that is the same diameter, that's got the plug in it, as the Cartomizer. It's the exact same diameter. If you're not careful, the edge of this is fairly sharp. It's not going to cut you, but if you pinch that O-ring in there just right, you can take a little chunk out of it. And if you do that too often, you're going to break the seal on there and it's going to start leaking on you. So, you take a drip tip that's the same diameter and push it right through. It goes through much easier and you don't have to worry about cutting the inner O-ring. And here's a filling tip. You've got the Cartomizer, brand new Cartomizer, and this is on a new Cartomizer, not one that's you've been using for a while and you're just refilling it. You just put a brand new Carto in there. You filled it up full of juice. Do not start trying to vape on it. It takes some time for the e-liquid to work its way through these holes. These holes aren't huge. They're big enough so that every time you take a puff on your e-cig, it's going to let in just a tiny amount of juice. Sometimes it won't let in any, sometimes it'll let in a little bit more. You'll actually see bubbles coming out of these holes. So as you're taking a draw, you're actually creating a small vacuum, and it's sucking in a little bit of liquid. When you stop taking your draw, air is going to come back in. So, dry Cartomizer, you just filled this up. Then, after that, fill it up like you would traditionally fill it up. Put some drops in there. Put some drops in there. And keep on putting the drops until it won't take anymore. Until it's saturated on top. Then, me personally, I let it sit for a few minutes to make sure it's working well. Then, start using your tank. Now, you may find with a new Cartomizer that it doesn't wick really well. And what I found is that after about a half a tank, this is on the smaller 3 mil, about a half a tank to a full tank, that second refill works really well. It wicks really well. If you're finding that you're getting a dry hit, just stop and take short, quick, sharp puffs on the Carto. With it on your mod is fine. As you're doing that, you can look on one side or the other and you'll see bubbles. Every time you do it, you'll see bubbles. I will keep on doing that until I hear the slightest bit of a gargle, a little gurgly sound coming out. And that's telling me that I got enough juice saturated in the filler that now it's working its way into the air channel where the air draws up through the middle where the coils are in the center. Once I do that, I fire up the mod and start vaping again. As a lot of you may know, running your Cartomizers, low resistance, regular resistance, high resistance, dual coil, triple coil, there's so many out there. I was using dual coils for quite a while and I was running them at 6 volts. The one thing I was finding that after about 7 to 10 days, and this, keep in mind, this is my personal experience, it would start to flood. it was like the wicking material on the inside just could not hold the liquid anymore and was just flooding in. It came out the bottom. For me, I got 7 or 10 days out of a Cartomizer that cost me $2. I threw it away and I put another one and started all over. But I absolutely think this is great to be able to go all day, not have to drip, not have to refill a carto or top it off. So if you do find that it's starting to flood and it's been a week or two, and this usually happens on 6 volts. At 3.7 volts, I haven't been finding this as often. This may also happen with low resistance Cartomizers. I don't know for sure because I haven't used them. But the theory's there. Heating up that material a lot, breaking it down, it's not going to hold the juice anymore. So keep that in mind if you do start noticing a lot of gurgling sound or a lot of leaking out of the bottom here. So to finish it off, when you do get your tank and you notice a residue like some juice or liquid or something like that, that is a PG e-liquid, a propylene glycol e-liquid. That's what I use to assemble it, to make the assembly nice and easy and to try to keep the O-rings nice and saturated and wet. But yeah, that's going to do it for the demo and trips and tips. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment below. I'll, as always, I answer any questions left on the channel here. You can head over to vaporscoop.com, vaporscoop.com, and there'll be a list of the vendors that currently carry the Easy Tanks. And of course, you can find me on most all the forums as The Green. Yeah, you can shoot me an email, thegreen@vaporscoop.com. And that is pretty much going to do it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope it was helpful to you. And until next time, if you're a smoker, stop that and try vaping. Until next time, see ya.